KP Video News. KP Video News, y'all.
KP's Video News, y'all. Coming to you today. It's a solemn day today. Today is the day that George Floyd will be laid to rest at a cemetery in Pearland, Texas. And hey, it's one of those days, man. This didn't have to happen. This didn't have to happen. This is extremely unfortunate and untimely death of a person that was basically, hey, taken away, and but his sacrifice will not be in vain, because a lot of change, a lot of positive change is about to happen, and he laid down his life, man, and it's I don't think they had any clue when they did what they did, that the way this was going to turn out and the way it was going to unfold. And see, this is what you have to think about, man. When God is in the middle of something, nobody can stand in the way. So you never know how God is going to use whatever he needs to use to get his point across. We have been sitting here in the house, and everybody's been in the house sequestering and all this for the whole COVID-19 and the coronavirus and dealing with all this stuff. And in the middle of it all, we have to understand that it's a message here that needs to be seen. It's a message here that needs to be spoken on, and that is, if you put God in the middle, first, in the middle, and behind, if you put God in your whole picture, something good is going to always come out of something, even if it's a bad situation. So you got to keep the faith. And so his said George Floyd's body is expected to arrive at the cemetery around 1 p.m. and there will be a horse-drawn carriage for the last mile of the funeral procession. The public is welcome. Public is certainly welcome to pay respects at the public locations en route, including the sidewalks. Barricades are being placed along the procession route on Cullen, where the horse-drawn carriage will travel, to prevent vehicular access and pedestrian access to the roadway. These barricades will help keep visitors safe and maintain public safety. Attendees are requested to stay behind the barricades to provide safe travel locations for the procession and to ensure safety of Mr. Floyd's family. With the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, attendees are also encouraged to wear masks and maintain social distance from those not known to them as much as possible. And we can watch the services on TV, and service is going to start at 11 a.m. Central Time, so that's like 2 hours ahead. So it's 10:41. So that should be getting ready to start soon, since Central Time is 2 hours ahead of where I'm at right now. And it's really sad, the whole situation. A lot of people, of course, you already know. And just past Thursday, George Floyd's family and closest friends demanded justice for the man they said was killed by the pandemic of racism and discrimination. Mourners paid tribute to Floyd inside a sanctuary in North Central Minneapolis, singing praises for their brother, father, uncle, and friend who died at the age of 46. So this was like last week, and then they had another memorial in Carolina, and then they had another memorial yesterday where they're going to be burying him at in Texas. But today is going to be the final memorial and the funeral. Floyd died as police officers planted a knee on his neck for nearly 9 minutes in a violent arrest that is all too representative of African American life. George Floyd's story is the story of black folks, said Al Sharpton, founder of the National Action Network, a civil rights organization, because ever since 400 years ago, the reasons we could never be who we wanted to be and dreamed of being, because you kept your knee on our necks. And Reverend Al Sharpton added, what happened to Floyd happens every day in this country, in education and health services, in every area of American life. It's time for us to stand up in George's name and get your knee off our necks. So that's what we got to do. We got to stand up, man. We have to stand up because they've been playing this game. And I had my roving reporter Karen sent me a picture yesterday, and it's like a depiction of several black bodies being used as a table, and they have this game on top of their backs, and it's like a bunch of white people standing around this table made out of black men, and the caption says, if we want to end the game, all we have to do is stand up. Just stand up, and the game will be over. So the game over. There's no time for no more stupidity. The game is over. We're not having it. We're not having it anymore. And so on with the next phase of this. We're not having it anymore. It's like Black Lives Matter sues the Trump administration over use of force on D.C. protesters. That's right. It's time to stand up. Black Lives Matter filed suit against President Donald Trump and his administration on Thursday, alleging their civil rights and First Amendment rights were violated after peaceful protesters were forced out of Lafayette Square so Trump could take a photo op in front of a nearby church. Protesters demonstrating peacefully against police violence in the wake of George Floyd's death were forced out of a square in Washington, D.C. on Monday by U.S. Park Police and National Guards. Journalists and protesters alike reported that the otherwise peaceful demonstration was met with authorities using horses, projectiles, gas, pepper spray, rubber bullets, and batons. Clearing out the square came just moments before Trump, the D.C. dunce, left the White House and came to a stop at St. John's Episcopal Church, where he posed for a photo op with the Bible that he held upside down and backwards. Didn't say a word. The D.C. chapter of the activist organization filed a suit along with the American Civil Liberties Union against the administration for violating their First Amendment and Fourth Amendment rights, which protect the right to protest and protect against unreasonable search and seizure. The lawsuit also claims the administration committed a conspiracy to deprive them of their civil rights and protections. The conspiracy targeted plaintiffs' protected First Amendment activities because defendants held animus toward plaintiffs' viewpoints, the lawsuit said. The violent actions of the conspirators directly and unlawfully interfered with these activities. The Department of Justice did not immediately respond to a request for comment on the lawsuit. Attorney William Barr, William Barr, that's who he is, who was also named in the lawsuit, defended the use of force on protesters on Thursday. Barr alleged the administration was provoked by increasing violence, which was a total lie. On Monday, we were still facing a very large demonstrations that were belligerent and throwing projectiles, Barr said. It was a total liar, adding that it's very important to use sufficient force, law enforcement, to establish law and order in a city when you have riots running. There wasn't no such thing. There wasn't no riots going on. If you use insufficient resources, it's dangerous for everybody. Multiple news outlets with reporters at the scene on Monday have contradicted claims of escalating violence, noting that the group had been in the park for hours without any notable incidents of aggression. So it's totally ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. You know, it's like it's just totally crazy, man. But anyway, get back to dealing with the situation at hand. You know, George Floyd, getting ready to be laid to rest today. Houston. It's just something, man. George Floyd, in 11th grade at Jack Yates High School in Houston, nearly 3 decades ago. A group of close friends on their way home were contemplating what senior year and beyond would bring, where the black teenagers and the precipice of manhood, what they asked one another, did they want to do with their lives? George turned and said, "I want to touch the world," recalling the aspiration of one of the young men, a tall, gregarious star athlete named George Floyd, whom he had met in the school cafeteria on the first day of school of 6th grade. To their 17-year-old minds, touching the world maybe meant the NBA or the NFL. It was one of the first moments I remember after learning what had happened to him. Mr. Veal said he could not have imagined that this is the tragic way people would know his name. The world would know George Perry Floyd Jr. through his final harrowing moments as he begged for air, his face wedged for nearly 9 minutes between the city street and a police officer's knee. Mr. Floyd's gasping death, immortalized by a bystander's cell phone video during the twilight hours of Memorial Day, has powered 2 weeks of sprawling protests across America against police brutality. He has been memorialized in Minneapolis, where he died, in North Carolina he was born, and in Houston, where thousands stood in the unrelenting heat on Monday afternoon to file past his gold coffin and bid him farewell in the city where he spent most of his life. Many of those who attended the public viewing said they saw Mr. Floyd as one of them, a fellow Houstonian who could have been their father, their brother, or their son. This is something that touched really close, said Kina Ardon, 43, a nurse who stood in line that stretched far from the church entrance that could have been anybody in my family. Now, a timestamp in the prolonged history of violence against black people, Mr. Floyd's killing has inspired people of every race to march in the streets and kneel, chanting Black Lives Matter in hundreds of cities, small towns, all around the world. But Mr. Floyd, 46, was more than the nearly 9-minute graphic video of his death. He was more than the 16 utterances captured on a recording video of some version of "I Can't Breathe." He was an outside man who dreamed equally big, unswayed by the setbacks of life. Growing up in one of Houston's poorest neighborhoods, he enjoyed a star turn as a basketball and football player, with 3 catches for 18 yards in the state championship game his junior year. He was the first of his siblings to go to college, and he did so on an athletic scholarship. So I'm telling you now, George Floyd, he's going to lay to rest here. And, he was born in Fayetteville, North Carolina, to George Perry and Lacenia Floyd, but he was really from Houston, a Houston neighborhood called the Bricks. And so, it's like, wow, man, he they used to call him Big Floyd back in the day because he was a big person. He was like, 6'5", 6'6". Anyway, this man is being laid to rest today, and don't let him die in vain. We have to stand up, people. We got to stand up, and we have to be who we can be. I mean, on Tuesday, on this morning, 15 days after that anguished cry, Mr. Floyd be laid to rest. he'll be laid to rest beside his mother today. And may you rest in paradise, my brother. Rest in paradise. It's a sad occasion, but at the same time, it's an occasion for all of us to be lifted up and lifted up and give the glory to God, because God will and can and always will be used, and he will always bless people in the middle of a storm. Don't ever forget that. Don't ever forget it. Yep, here we are. What the heck is going on? That's right. KP Video News. All right. Get out there and do something positive. Peace.